Yashodanandana Brajachana Ranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Rathamadhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Rathamadhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajakacharya Ashtotara Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki Nitai Gaura Premanandi. Oh glories to the assembled devotees. Oh glories to the assembled devotees. Oh glories to the assembled devotees. Oh glories to Shishiguru and Shiguranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, the Summon Bonum, Chapter 64, the Deliverance of King Nriga, text number 14 and 15. Swa alankrite vyoguna shilabhya sidat kutumbe bhyarita vratebhya tapasruta brahma vadanya sabhya pradanjubabhyo dvijapungabhebhya swalankritebhyo gunashilabhadya sidat kutumbe bhyarita vritabhya tapasuta brahma vadanya sapya pradamjubabhyo dvijapungabhebhya swalankritebhyo gunashilabhadbhya sidat kutumbe bhyarita vratebhya tapasruta brahma vadanya sapya pradanjubabhyo dvijapungabhebhya. Please chant. Swalankritebhyo gunashilabhavya sidat kutumbe bhyarita vratebhya tapasuta brahma vadanya sapya pradanjubabhyo dvijapungabhebhya Swalankritebhyo gunashilatbhabhya Sidat kutumbebhya britapritebhya Tapasruta brahma badanya sapya Pradanjubabhyo dujapungabhebhya Swalankritebhyo gunashilabhadbhya Sidat kutumbebhya ritaprathebhya Tapasruta brahma badanya sapya Pradanjubabhyo dujapungabhebhya Gobuhiranya jatana swahastina Kanya sadasistila ruprasajya Vasamsi ratnani parichadan ratam Ishtam tajagyas charitam chapurtam Su well alankritabhyaha who were ornamented guna good qualities shila and character but bhya who possess it see that distressed kutumbabhya whose families rita to truth bratebhya dedicated tapaha for austerity shuta well known brahma in the Vedas badanya vastly learned Sabhya saintly Pradam I gave Juvabhyaha who were John and I'm going to read the translation. Translation by the disciples of Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. I first honor the Brahmanas who were recipients of my charity by decorating them with fine ornaments. Those most exalted Brahmanas whose families were in need were young and possessed of excellent character and qualities. They were dedicated to truth, famous for their austerities, vastly learned in the Vedic scriptures, and saintly in their behavior. I gave them cows, land, gold, and houses, along with horses, elephants, and marriageable girls and maidservants, as well as sesame, silver, fine beds, clothing, jewels, furniture, and chariots. In addition, I performed Vedic sacrifice and executed various pious welfare activities. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Ummilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimate Roma Padaswami Iti Namine. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirveshesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments on this verse, 14 and 15, these two verses. This verse gives details of the acts of charity. Quote, I gave to Brahmanas who were well known for austerity, tapasruta, and well versed in the Vedas, Brahmani, Badanya, because of study. End of quote. This verse describes other things he gave in charity. He gave pradhanam to the Brahmanas who are mentioned in the previous verse, and also made charitam, thanks and wealth. And Srila Jiva Goswami also comments on these two verses. Srila Jiva Goswami writes, now, he described the good qualities of the recipients of charity. I first decorated them with gold earrings and ornaments. They had good feature, they had good physical features, guna, and good internal disposition, shila, with honesty and gentleness. They had performed vratas carefully for their upliftment. Dharmas chasatyam chadamas tapascha amatsaryayam hristitikshanu hristitikshanu Jagyaschadhananchadriti Srutamcha Mahabrata Dwadasa Brahmanasya. The 12 bratas of the Brahmanas are dharma, truthfulness, control of the senses, austerity, lack of envy, shyness, tolerance, lack of indignation, sacrifice, charity, fortitude, and learned. This is from the Mahabharata. These Brahmanas perform bratas without duplicity. Rita brate vyaha. Tapa means dedicated to daily rituals like Sandhya Bandhana. So what is Sandhya Bandhana? Is the prayers, the silent prayers, how it's called, the you know, how we call these prayers? Yeah, no, the ones that you do, Gayatri mantras, sorry. I got a black. The Gayatri mantras. So, Sandhya Bandhana. So you do it on the Sandhyas. So, early in the morning, before the sun rises, and then at noon, and when sun's set. Okay, so Tapa means dedicated to daily rituals like Sandhya Bandhana. Bandhana means prayer. Sandhya means the changes that are there. Satya means inclined to follow proper behavior. Sadbhyaha. They were youthful, and in order to perform dharma properly, they were the best among all the brahmanas. I gave them the cows with devotion. Pra-adham, washing their feet, etc. Not only did I give cows, but many other objects. Go means bulls. Ayatana means houses. Parichada means umbrellas, chamaras, and other utensils. I gave all this. The word cha mentioned twice in the last line indicates the predominance of the charity over the sacrifices, and that these acts were done in the proper way. So the whole Vedic structure, the whole universal structure that the Lord organizes is the social structure that the Lord organizes. and designs for the welfare of the whole human society is based on this relationship between Brahmanas and Kshatriyas. Um, the, the cooperation between these two elements of the social body is the one that will guarantee everything will flourish and be proper and successful in the whole social structure. The Lord is known as, we offer this prayer. It's a prayer that appears in the Vishnu Purana, that we offer this prayer every day to the deities. Every time we do an offering. Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha Jagat Hitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. And in this prayer, the will of the Lord is very clearly indicated. The prayer translates as follows: Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto Lord Krishna, who is the worshipable deity for all Brahminical men, and who is the well-wisher of cows and Brahmanas, and who always benefiting the whole world. I offer my repeated obeisances to the personality of Godhead known as Krishna and Govinda. So, Brahmanya, this word hitaya means beneficial. So, Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha. So, the first element that the Lord is emphasizing is that He is the benefactor of Brahmanas and cows. So the protection, when the protection of Brahmanas, when the service of Brahmanas and the service of the cows, the protection of both are in place, then Jagat Hitaya, then the whole welfare of human society takes place. So it's the system that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has offered to the whole world in order to receive his protection, the protection of the Lord. He is a supreme protector. He is a supreme controller. So he gave this system to the whole human society. And when that system is in place and well executed, then there is Jagat Hitaya. There is a welfare of the whole human society is in place. When there is a disregard of this universal principle, then there is chaos in society. So that's something that we see nowadays, that there is so much conflict and so much chaos in society, is because these principles are not properly followed. The protections of Brahmanas and cows. So, in order for these principles to be in place, then the relationship between Kshatriyas and Brahmanas have to be perfectly in place. When there's a compromise on either one or both of those two elements, then the system is not going to work. It's how it was designed. In the third canto, there is a whole section in which this is described. It's during the time of Swayambhuva Manu, when he, on the order of the Lord, on the direction of the Lord, brings his daughter Devahuti to the great sage, son of Rama, one of the sons, the seven sons of Rama, Kardama Muni. And then there is this narration in the Bhagavatam in which an exchange between Swayambhuva Manu and Kardama Muni takes place, in which first Kardama Muni praises the king, the emperor, Swayambhuva, and describe the good qualities of the king. And then the king, Swayambhuva Manu, praises Kardama Muni as a perfect Brahmana. And this narration goes like this, these famous verses. And in the purport, Prabhupada elaborates. In the verses is described the nature of this relationship between Kshatriyas and Brahmanas in order to protect and maintain the whole universal structure, social structure that is designed by Krishna. And so this is Swayambhuva Manu talking to Kardama Muni. This is in the third canto, chapter 22. And the very first verses, describe this. So Manu replied, or Swayambhuva Manu speaks, to expand himself in Vedic knowledge, Lord Brahma, the personified Veda, from his face created you, the Brahmanas, who are full of austerity, knowledge, and mystic power, and are averse to sense gratification. Srila Prabhupada comments, the purpose of the Vedas is to propagate the transcendental knowledge of the absolute truth. The Brahmanas were created from the mouth of the Supreme Person and therefore are meant to spread the knowledge of the Vedas in order to spread the glories of the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita, also Lord Krishna says that all the Vedas are meant for understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is especially mentioned here that Brahmanas are full of mystic powers and are completely averse to sense gratification. Actually, there are two kinds of occupations. One occupation in the material world is sense gratification, and the other occupation is a spiritual activity to satisfy the Lord by his glorification. Those who are engaged in sense gratification are called demons, and those who spread the glorification of the Lord or satisfy the transcendental senses of the Lord are called demigods. It is especially mentioned here that the Brahmanas are created from the face of the cosmic personality or Virat Purusha. Similarly, the Kshatriyas are said to be created from his arms. The Vaishyas are created for his waist, and the Sudras are created from his legs. Brahmanas are especially meant for austerity, learning, and knowledge, and are averse to all kinds of sense gratification. So, the description of the qualities of the Brahmanas are given, and also in the verse of today, we hear all these qualifications of the Brahmanas that King Niga was giving charity to. And Srila Jiva Goswami quotes the Mahabharata with these 12 vratas or qualities that brahmanas must have, that are qualified brahmanas. And these are also mentioned in several places, these qualities. This is um, this is also mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, famous verse in the 18th chapter. Samo damas tapasauchan shantir arjavan eva cha jnanam vijnanam astikam brahma karma swabhavajam. Lord Krishna mentions not 12 but 9 qualities, but nevertheless very similar: peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. These are the natural qualities by which the Brahmana work. And there's another quotation of another scripture called Mukta Phala Tika. And then says similarly, Samo Damas Tapasauchan Chanti Arjaban Virak Viraktaja Jnana Vijnana Santosha Satyastikye Dvishat Guna. So here's 12. Mental equilibrium, sense control, austerity, cleanliness, tolerance, simplicity, detachment, theoretical and practical knowledge, satisfaction, truthfulness, firm faith in the Vedas are the 12 qualities of a Brahmana. Again, the ones in the Mahabharata that is quoted by Srila Jiva Goswami, the translation of that is, a Brahmana must be perfectly religious. He must be truthful. He must be able to control his senses. He must execute severe austerities. And he must be detached, humble, and tolerant. He must not envy anyone. And he must be expert in performing sacrifices and giving whatever he has in charity. He must be fixed in devotional service and expert in the knowledge of the Vedas. These are the 12 qualifications for a Brahmana. So, Swayambhuva Manu is discussing with Kardama Muni, praising the Brahminical body of society. And then, in one sense, he wants to establish, the purpose of the Kshatriyas. So in the next verse, he established that. So, first, how important the Brahmanas is. Then Swayambhuva Manu says, for the protection of the Brahmanas, the thousand-legged Supreme Being created us, the Kshatriyas, from his 1,000 arms. Hence, the Brahmanas are said to be his heart and the Kshatriyas his arms. And Srila Prabhupada comments, Kshatriyas are especially meant to maintain the Brahmanas, because if the Brahmanas are protected, then the head of civilization is protected. Brahmanas are supposed to be the head of the social body. If the head is clear, and has not gone mad, then everything is in proper position. The Lord is described thus: Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hityaya Cha. The purpose of this prayer is that the Lord specifically protects the brahmanas and the cows, and then he protects all other members of society. It is his will that universal welfare work depends on the protection of cows and brahmanas. Thus, Brahminical culture and cow protection are the basic principles for human civilization. Kshatriyas are especially meant to protect the brahmanas, as is the supreme will of the Lord. Go brahmana hityaja cha. As the heart is very important part within the body, so the brahmanas are also the important element in human society. The kshatriyas are more like the whole body. Even though the whole body is bigger than the heart is more important. So you got a sense of that relationship that is very important for the kshatriya, for the rulers, for the administration, to make sure, the brahmanas are compared as the head and also as the heart. So without those two elements, it's finished. The whole body is finished. So it's the most important part to protect. And then Swayambhuva Manu, he says, that is why the Brahmanas and Kshatriyas protect each other as well as themselves. And the Lord himself, who is both the cause and effect and is yet immutable, protects them through each other. So here's the system. So the connection that is there between the Kshatriyas having the responsibility as the protectors of the whole human, the whole social body, is to make sure that the most important element of that body is very, very healthy and well protected. And by doing that, automatically, he himself is protected as well as the rest of the body. So the whole structure is based on this very healthy relationship. Prabhupada explains that in his purport. The entire social structure of Varna and Ashram is a cooperative system meant to uplift all to the highest platform of a spiritual realization. The Brahmanas are intended to be protected by the Kshatriyas, and the Kshatriyas are also intended to be enlightened by the Brahmanas. When the Brahmanas and Kshatriyas cooperate nicely, the other subordinate divisions, the Vaishyas or mercantile people, and the Sudras or laborer class, automatically flourish. The entire elaborate system of Vedic society was therefore based on the importance of the Brahmanas and Kshatriyas. The Lord is a real protector, but he is unattached to the affairs of protection. He creates Brahmanas for the protection of the Kshatriyas and Kshatriyas for the protection of the Brahmanas. He remains aloof from all activities, therefore he is called Nirvikara, without activities. He has nothing to do. He is so great that he does not perform actions personally, but his energies act. The Brahmanas and Kshatriyas and anything that we see are different energies acting upon one another. Although individual souls are all different, the super self or super soul is the supreme personality of Godhead. Individually, oneself may differ from others in certain qualities and may engage in different activities, such as those of a Brahmana, Kshatriya, or Vaishya. But when there is complete cooperation among the different individual souls, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as Super Soul, Paramatma, being one in every individual soul, is pleased and give them all protection. As stated before, the Brahmanas are produced from the mouth of the Lord. The Kshatriyas are produced from the chest and arms of the Lord. If the different castes or social sections, although apparently differently occupied in different activities, nevertheless act in full cooperation, then the Lord is pleased. This is the idea of the institution of 4 varnas and 4 ashram. If the members of different ashram and varnas cooperate fully in Krishna consciousness, the society is well protected by the Lord without doubt. So this is the system. And when that system is in place, then it's a perfect social body. It's a perfect system. But you have to have all those elements in place. When you have a compromise of those elements, then the whole thing goes. And then we know from the narration of the Srimad Bhagavatam at the beginning of Kali Yuga, the first attack or the first target of Kali personified was the qualification of the Brahmanas. So when the son of Shaunika Rishi, Shringi, young boy Brahmana, when he cursed Maharaj Parikshit, the emperor of the world, and Rajarshi, or a saintly king, when he cursed him to die by the bite of a snake, then that was the falling of the Brahminical class in Kali, in the age of Kali. And with the falling of the Brahminical class, then all the different dominoes are starting to fall down. So without the qualified Brahmanas, then naturally the Kshatriyas were not protected, not properly enlightened, and then the rest, when this relationship became polluted, then the whole thing went into chaos. And then we see in the history of, modern, the history of all these different kingdoms and kings, and so much um, um, vices that caused basically the disappearance of the whole monarchy throughout the world. It became irrelevant. So then other type of social structures were designed by mankind. So then we have all these isms that came just as an alternative to the fallen monarchies. So then we have social system like communism, democracy, socialism, etc., etc. You have situations in which Vaishyas or Sudras are taking the place of, kings. In the case of um, capitalism, then you have Vaishyas. It's about capital, it's about money. So, economic development. So, these are Vaishyas trying to rule the whole society. So, therefore, the whole thing is about profit. And that's what we see now. Through profit, you exploit. It's all about everything becomes a means to get profits. So at the end, the very people that you're trying to serve is the people that are the means to profit. So it becomes a society in which few have all the wealth and the rest are the source of that wealth. So it's a very flawed system that it's a man-made thing that doesn't work. And then you have communism, in which the whole thing is that the labor rules. So this is a system that tries to say, well, that the sutras must rule. And then the whole idea, which is utopic, or is an impossibility, that the whole idea is that no, everyone is equal. So you're trying to obliterate divisions, but it's impossible. So that doesn't work either. So all these man-made systems, they're failures. The only system that is designed, the one that is designed by the Lord, Krishna says that in the Bhagavad Gita, that he created these varnas and this system of divisions of society. It's a system that is perfect. It's a system that is created by God himself. And of course, the system that Krishna created has given, a little bad rap just because of the concoction and polluted presentation of the caste system, the modern caste system, that is based again in the concoctions and the misinterpretation and the abuse of unqualified leaders that claim that this system is based on birth, which is not what Krishna says. Krishna says guna and karma. By this system is based on the qualities and the activities, not on birth, not on Jamma. Is based on guna and karma. Guna karma, I can remember the verse. Yeah, I can remember the verse. But swabhavajam, guna karma swabhavajam. So it's by guna and by karma. So, so this is the important lesson that is here. And Maharaj Nriga is explaining how he was fully dedicated to that. He was fully dedicated to these two principles. He was a pious king. He was and as a pious king, he would do it not only dutiful, but also would do it with devotion, with, with happiness. So he was totally dedicated to that. And as such, naturally, he was causing the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord by securing this principle in which this will of the Lord, by which the whole world will be served and satisfied and protected by, so as a representative of Krishna in the world, the king was executing his duties. And he was doing it quite well. But as the narration goes, he made just one mistake. And he have to suffer for that mistake, but because of his dedication and his satisfaction of the Lord by his activities, he was delivered by the Lord himself. And he obtained perfection. So I stop here. Any comments or questions on this subject? Good? Krishna Archana?
You'd kindly pointed out the man-made systems that have encroached into Kali Yuga and so moved away from the perfect system created by Lord Krishna. So I was just reflecting that that cooperation between the Brahmanas and the Kshatriyas, or the saintly kings, actually brought about so much satisfaction and peace in society, because you hearing that in the verse we were reading that the Brahmanas were, even though they were young and perhaps in need of some material possessions, there was good qualities and happiness. So it stands in such stark contrast to the general unhappiness in society and the general lack of satisfaction, say in the country we live in, where capitalism is the system of rule, that you so excellently put across, has that component of profiting from the general populace as opposed to protecting the general populace, because the rulers are, from the Vaishya category. So so I was just thinking of that general atmosphere of happiness and satisfaction versus an atmosphere of dissatisfaction, even with supposed material comforts, because that's generally highlighted by people, that the material comforts have not produced happiness or satisfaction. So clearly it has to do with that shift in the system away from Lord Krishna's um, organizational structure.
Yeah. Yeah, it's quite something because the whole principle of welfare is, you know, culture is an ecosystem. It's a place in which something can grow. You know that when we study in labs, you know they have this culture. They create an environment in which some kind of element can grow like that, and there's a culture. Some bacteria or something grows into that. So the element of culture is supposed this perfect Vedic structure or culture, Vedic culture, is meant to create the ecosystem and the environment so all elements of society will elevate, to have a proper understanding of how to function in a way that their consciousness is being elevated. So both Brahmanas and Kshatriyas are the, the ones who will guarantee. The Kshatriyas are the administrators of society, and the Brahmanas are the one who give knowledge. So, so you create, this environment, this ecosystem, in which people have a proper understanding, whole society. So when there is not this thing in place, then you have ignorance and passion ruling. So ignorance, or what in the Ishopanishad is called the the avidya, or the culture of nations, right? So the culture of nations is that the whole purpose of life, the whole thing, the definition of the culture of nations is just about sense gratification. So when you have a social body that is ignorant and that is simply absorbed in the bodily conception of life, and the goal of life is to satisfy the senses, then the whole thing goes to hell. So regardless, there's just not satisfaction at all. Regardless of how many means you have to try to satisfy the senses, it is explained that the senses never get satisfied. It just get this, it just uh, agitate the desire for more. So there's always a desire for more, more, more. It's like exactly the description of someone who has an addiction. That when you have an addiction, then you're caught into this destructive down spiral that it never ends. Because the very same thing that is destroying you, you become addicted and you just need more and you can't stop. You have to do more and more and more and more, and every day more. You need your fix. So so that's what sense gratification does. So therefore, at the end, there's no satisfaction. There's no satisfaction. And in this system that we live, in particular this part of the world, is just because it's about profit, then the main thing that we're indoctrinated to, and is ingrained in the consciousness of all the people of this part of this system, is about consuming, consuming, consuming. And they become expert in trying to induce you to believe that this thing you need, and when you start to consume, this will give you happiness, and you consume and you get some temporary happiness, and you want more and you want more, and you want newer, and then the whole thing is newer things and newer things. Is now we go for the iPhone, whatever, 16 or something like that. You know, like not so long ago we have the iPhone 6, and now it's like you have the iPhone 6, so you're quite behind. You can take proper pictures, or you can save so many things, or you can look at so many things. So you're like an obsolete sense gratifier. So yeah, is really, it's quite striking. The To be exposed to this truth. Is Krishna's system is perfect. So Prabhupada have left us with this great task, the task in ISKCON, the task of establishing this Vanashram principle, Vanashram Dharma. Still in the process of trying to figure it out how to, but it's meant to happen. It's meant to happen. And in one sense, in temples, in the community of devotees, we're learning the principle of establishing this also cooperation between administrators and spiritual guides and the brahmanas, to create a whole atmosphere in which, an environment in which all can flourish. And we still have work to do, to have that type of balance, uh, like that. So it's important. It's an important work. Okay. You have something else to say? Okay. Anything else? People?
Hare, Hare Krishna Prabhu. I'm Lokesh. I have two questions.
Bring it close.
I have two questions in my mind. The first one is how cows are important in balancing, a balanced ecosystem. As you mentioned, like the cows and brahmanas are to be protected. So we understood that brahmanas uh, protects kshatriyas by giving some wise advices, because we also understood the 12 characteristics of brahmanas. So maybe from that we can like say like it is, the brahmanas are very important in the society, but I would also like to know how cows are important. And the second question is uh, we know, we discussed like there are four classes of people, like brahmanas, kshatriyas, vaishyas and shudras. Into which category the doctors or scientists can be classified?
Well, both second one, I know doctors and scientists, they were part of the Brahminical culture. So that's why the doctors are called Vaidyas. So the, the they were knowledgeable in the whole principles of Ayurveda. Ayurveda is one of the, is one, it appears part of the Vedic body, both of, and scientists, astrology, all these different things, all these different branches of the Vedas are just body of knowledge, and the Brahmanas were qualified for doing that. We used to see this Ayurvedic doctor for a long time, who was part of a lineage that went all the way, the ancestors of this, that he was, he was part of this lineage, family, lineage, in which his ancestor used to be the doctors during Krishna's time. He was a Brahmana. So, yes, that's my understanding. Um, the protection of the cows is something, is as we hear this, we hear Srila Prabhupada quoting the Namo Brahmanya Devaya, Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha. So, Go Brahmana Hitaya. So, both, equal importance, equal importance. And it's just Krishna's will. One can question Krishna's will. Sorry, Krishna's will. I mean, there's Krishna has a whole rational, perfect, perfect rational of why cows and brahmanas. But even if you question that, it's his will. It's how he designed. And as members of society, we have, we come to that understanding. And therefore, for those who are followers or Vaishnavas, then we understand that cows and brahmanas must be protected first. And then society, the happiness, the protection of society will follow. So in ISKCON, it's important, and we still have to become better and better. I mean, it's a challenge in a environment that is based on the abuse and the killing of the cows, because these are countries that are, a good part of their livelihood and sort of makeup is about eating the cow, which is, it's demoniac. It's the whole opposite thing. And we're trying to establish, a system, an alternative that is based on cow protection. And it's moving ahead. It's moving slowly, but it's moving. It's becoming more and more sort of start to appear in the consciousness of society now with vegans, the whole thing about, you don't consume. I mean, some of them have the wrong idea that cows, that milk is bad. So it's a reaction to that. But at the end, this whole idea that this economy and society based on the exploitation of the cow, then that it doesn't give any type of positive results, then this whole idea start to creep in mainstream. So it's going slowly, and questions will be at times. There's discussions on the community of devotees worldwide. What type of position we should take in terms of participating in some way in the exploitation of the cows. And then there is the whole discussion within ISKCON. Some devotees choose to not consume any type of product that are part of this Kali Yuga program that is not protecting the cows. So if you don't have ahimsa milk or ahimsa products, milk products, then you should not consume it. Some devotees take that position. and is very is understandable, and you have good basis if you feel like that, if that's your motivation. On the other hand, there's other devotees that even even if you participate, if you understand that Krishna is capable of, benefit these animals that has been, tortured and abused, but their product, their milk, is being offered for the satisfaction of Krishna, then the purpose of the cow is fulfilled. And then Krishna is taking, the milk of the cow. So the cow, regardless, have that service. The killer of the cow and the abuser have to suffer for each hair of the cow, but the cow itself is able to offer her milk to Krishna. And that in itself is also a part of cow protection. So then the devotees, they decide, no, we still will consume milk. We still will consume milk, even if that milk is coming from a cow that has been abused, because still that poor animal still benefiting, because she is being offering her milk to Krishna. So, and then for us, we just consume Krishna prasadam. Once Krishna touches, then, and it's something that Krishna likes, that give him pleasure, we have to offer milk to Krishna. So, ideally, yes, each temple, Prabhupada instructs us, must has a farm, must have, a Goshala. In India, because it's a country in which cow protection is well established, although it's being compromised, by secular, ideals. Uh, Nevertheless, it's easier. So most temples have their Goshala, and then most temples have, the capacity to offer Krishna milk from cows that have been loved and protected. Here in the US, we only have a handful. In the Midwest, we have no. In the Northeast, there's Gitanagari and all the different temples from that area, Washington, New York, Philadelphia, they all benefit, Baltimore, from Gitanagari. So they receive. Sort of, there's also New Vrindavan, but Gitanagari is more advanced in sort of distributing milk. But hardly, not many temples have this capacity. So we have to be, that's some other things that we have to develop eventually. For at least, we have to start with building a strong structure within our temples, in which there is an environment in which people can flourish. So, administrators have to be very strong, temple presidents, and we have to create an environment in which Brahminical culture flourish. So, work to do. Okay? All right. Thank you so much. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.